All the things we got into. Y'all know some things that you ain't told me. Y'all did some things, that's the...
You know, I think that we can understand why HBO is not picking up Manny Pacquiao's fight against Jesse Vargas, because the shit's gonna flop. Now, maybe if it was Terrence Crawford, maybe they would have picked it up because they have an invested future in Terrence Crawford. You know, he was just on pay-per-view. But with the money that Manny Pacquiao was guaranteed, $20 million plus, HBO is like, you know, fuck that. We're going to come up with the money. For example, I'm going to do a little bit of simple math, right? So let's say the pay-per-view, Pacquiao versus Vargas, is going to likely be, especially if it was on HBO, $74.99. If you are paying for, you know, high definition. So $74.99 times how many pay-per-view buys do you think Pacquiao versus Vargas is going to do? Pacquiao versus Bradley 3 did around 300, you know, and 50 or 375,000 pay-per-view buys. You know, nothing was ever official, but from sources, that's what they're saying. Not my sources, but you know, from ESPN and Kevin Iole and all those guys. They're saying about, you know, under 400,000. So let's say $74.99. What is Pacquiao versus Vargas going to do? 300,000 pay-per-view buys, maybe? That's $74.99 times 300,000. That is $22 million, about $22,500,000. If Pacquiao is scheduled to make $20 million, right? Jesse Vargas is going to make maybe Chris Algieri money, $1.5 million, maybe $2 million. Then you have to factor in the marketing of the fight. You have to factor in the production costs of the fight, broadcasting fees, and how much HBO would want to make off the fight. And the money is just not there. It's just not there. You know, now, if it was an Adrian Broner, you know, it would have been, I say Pacquiao versus Broner would have probably did maybe about, it would have did 500 in my opinion, at least 500,000 pay-per-view buys, in my opinion, just off of Adrian Broner's charisma and his ability to sell fights. But let's be honest with you, I'm a huge Manny Pacquiao fan and Floyd Mayweather fan. But when it comes to Pacquiao, his stock has been dropping. You know, his career was in a way dependent on him fighting Floyd Mayweather. And even though Floyd Mayweather is the bigger star, you may not want to hear it, but Floyd Mayweather's career was somewhat dependent on him fighting Pacquiao. In all their post-fight interviews, when is it going to be Pacquiao? You know, after Mayweather versus Guerrero, when is it going to be Pacquiao? After Mayweather versus Canelo, when is it going to be Pacquiao? After Mayweather versus McDonald 1 and 2, when is it going to be Pacquiao? After Mayweather versus Pacquiao, you know, will it be a rematch? After Mayweather versus Berto, will it be a rematch? You see what I'm saying? So both of these guys' stocks have dropped, but Pacquiao's, you know, his shit is just it's tanked. It's tanked, and it's not being disrespectful. It's just that, you know, he has to be matched up with competition that's going to sell fights. I feel that him fighting Jesse Vargas would have been a good fight. I wanted Terrence Crawford, and Terrence Crawford just recently released a tweet saying that he was never offered the Pacquiao fight in any weight, and insinuating that if he was offered the fight at 147 pounds, he would have moved up. Now, I talked about in the past, whether you want to hear it or not, or whether you care or not, is that Pacquiao doesn't pick his fights. It comes from Bob Arum, Michael Kuntz, and Freddie Roach, and then Pacquiao just says, okay. Now, of course, Pacquiao can, you know, go against the script, something he's never done before, you know, and say, no, I want Terrence Crawford. But he didn't. Truth be told, I don't even think Pacquiao was to fight anymore. Truth be told, I think that they came to him and said, Pacquiao, you know, there's still some money to be made. He made so much money off of the Mayweather fight, and I know naysayers and detractors are going to say, well, Arum and all of them took all that money. He only seen a little bit of money, so you know but it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. The point is, you know, on paper he made a lot of money, and right now in life he is cool. He's debt free, and he's got millions and millions in the bank. And for crying out loud, he's a goddamn senator. You know, that shit right there. He's a senator. That shit's priceless. You know, he's a senator, and you know, maybe one day in the future, from what I understand, is that he can possibly be the president of the Philippines. You know, so you know, for people to say, you know, that he's broke and all that stuff, that's just foolishness. But I can understand why, you know, Showtime why HBO wouldn't pick up the fight, because it's just not there, and pay-per-views are flopping. You know, pay-per-views are not doing what they were supposed to do. Remember, Cotto versus Canelo was supposed to do 1.5 million pay-per-view buys. That shit did 900K. You know, that shit did 900K. Those are still good numbers, but the landscape has changed. You know, like boxing is supposed to be entertainment. You know, and a lot of boxers don't understand that, except fighters like Floyd Mayweather, who sells himself. Adrian Broner. You even have an up-and-coming fighter, Gerald Miller, you know, who is doing a good job to try to sell himself. You have a female fighter by the name of Shelly Vincent, who is trying to sell herself, and you know, and whether fans like it or not, that's who you got to be over in the UK. You have Tyson Fury, you know, who sells himself. You have Tony Bellew, who, you know, fans over there don't like because of his cursing and, you know, everything like that. He sells himself. But, you know, Anthony Mundine in Australia, he sells himself. You know, fans may not like him, but guess what? He can talk enough shit to make sure that every fight that he fights over in Australia is on Australian pay-per-view. It's crazy. So, you know, Manny Pacquiao just doesn't have that. And for a fight to be successful, it has to be a major storyline behind it, or, you know, there has to be somebody that's going to sell the fight. In Adrian Broner's case, he would have sold the fight. Adrian Broner was offered around $3 to $4 million, about $4 million to be exact, and he would have got a percentage of pay-per-view buys, in which he would have made, you know, about $10 million or so dollars. He would have, you know, the money adds up, you know, the numbers add up, and he turned it down. One of the big questions I raised is, listen, people saying, oh, why is Aaron trying to lowball everybody, and why is he, you know, offering Broner this much money? First of all, you some fuck. I don't want to curse at you, but I'll curse. You some fucking motherfucking goddamn common sense. You have Bob Arum on the phone with who? Thank you, Al Heyman. Thank you, Al Heyman. Do you think that Al Heyman, right, is on the phone with Bob Arum, and Bob Arum says, well, listen, you know, Pacquiao got to make $20 million, so, you know, we can give Broner 4 and a percentage of the pay-per-view buys? And you think that Al Heyman is going to Broner and say, well, listen, you know, Arum said, you know, we talked about it, and we can get you, you know, $3 to $4 million, and, you know, Pacquiao on the backslide, maybe you can beat him, but then, you know, you being Adrian Broner, being able to sell the fight, you'll be able to get some pay-per-view buys too. So why would Heyman, if he didn't think it was a good deal for Broner, go to Broner with the deal in the first place? This is Al Heyman, right? You know, so who's on the phone? It's not Bob Arum and White Ticket, you know, Adrian Broner's assistant. It's not Adrian Broner and Bob Arum on the phone. It's Bob Arum and this guy. So if he didn't think it was a good deal, you know, why would he go to Broner, you know, and be like, well, yeah, I knew that was some bullshit. You know, I tried to tell Arum to go fuck himself, and I said, I'm not telling Adrian Broner that bullshit. You know, but, you know, Adrian Broner goes to tell Al Heyman, no, I want $10 million up front, or whatever the hell he said he wanted. You know, it just doesn't make sense, and fans don't look at it like that. But here is a power move. Now, since Pacquiao is not going to be likely fighting on HBO anymore, and Bob Arum very, very soon is probably going to come out with an interview, you know, condemning HBO, because remember, they didn't want to pick up Crawford versus Postol, you know. So for them to pick it up, they said, well, we got to put it on pay-per-view. And with Pacquiao, Bob Arum was threatened to take Crawford versus Postol to Showtime. You know, he's had some dialogue with Showtime Sports president Steven Espinoza. So I'm thinking, well, what if he goes over to Steven Espinoza and says, well, listen, Pacquiao's available. Put Pacquiao Vargas on, and then listen, you got us now. And then if a Mayweather Pacquiao fight happens, it'll be easy to make. It'll be all pay-per-view. Cut out HBO, you know? So it's stuff like that you got to think about. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up on Showtime. But the front runner may be ESPN, and you may be wondering, well, what about PBC on ESPN? You know, Al Heyman doesn't own ESPN, and ESPN pay-per-view can be a totally different, you know, entity than PBC on ESPN, because PBC on ESPN right now is just basically, you know, Friday night fights all over again. You know, it started off hot. It was supposed to be something big, but it fizzled out. You know, but a power move would be, you know, Pacquiao versus Vargas on Showtime, and guess what? People would buy it more on Showtime because they're down with Showtime because of Al Heyman. You know, and you got to really, really think about what I'm talking about. But the details are still developing. There's still so much that we got to learn about the situation. And you know, it is what it is. You know, and like I said, I can understand the math for Pacquiao to make. Pacquiao's got to make a certain amount of money. You know, And for a guy who I feel doesn't want to really fight anymore anyway, you got to make sure he's well taken care of. So, Showtime has shown that they want to advance in the future of boxing. And one thing I love about Showtime boxing is they have been really, really trying their best to bring international boxing to the United States. Those midday Saturday cards, Showtime International, that's a beautiful thing. I was begging for that for years, for one of these networks to invest in those fights. For example, they invested in Billy Joe Saunders versus Chris Eubank, Billy Joe Saunders versus Andy Lee. What else? They had the Chris Eubank Jr. Last fight. They got Anthony Joshua signed up. So, I want Showtime to pick him up. That'd be a power move. But will Showtime do it? I think they should. If Showtime can get Manny Pacquiao and then still have Mayweather too, it's a power move. And HBO, people think for some reason it's this dumb notion out there that I'm just an HBO fanboy or something. I cover boxing. I call that shit like it is. And when it comes to HBO, their budget cuts have been evident. But no matter what, people say dumb shit like HBO's going broke. How they going broke with Game of Thrones? Also, HBO budget cuts has been all across the board. Even Game of Thrones, for those who watch it, it's one of the most popular shows, highly rated shows on television. And their last 2 seasons were cut short. The last 2 seasons that haven't aired yet were cut to 6 episodes compared to 10, and 7 episodes, compared to 10. And also in one episode, the last episode of the last season, they killed like 6 main members of the main cast. So the HBO budget cuts are just not for boxing. It's all across the board. So like I said, this is a developing situation. You can go to my Instagram at TST Controversy. All the links to my social media are right down below in the description box. I cover every single major fight live. Also, in the future, I'm launching a website, FightView360.com, and we are going to have up to date news, articles, etc., everything that you'll possibly ever need. It's going to be it's a very expensive and innovative venture. I can't use the word better than innovative. We're not just trying to be just some regular ass boxing website. We got some major shit planned, and I'm glad and grateful that you guys who have been following me for all these years has stuck through my shit. Pause. Has stuck with me through all this shit. I'm T-Street Controversy. This is T-Street Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.